She was a soldier, soaked and silent, until a stranger's porch light offered a way back to hope. The rain didn't fall. It poured, relentless and cold, as though the sky itself had opened in mourning. It came not in drops, but in sheets that blurred vision and drowned out sound, blurring the lines between earth and heaven. On a winding, half-forgotten road outside Blue Hollow, North Carolina, a soldier walked beside her child. Her boots slapped against wet gravel, each step heavy with exhaustion and silence. In her left hand, she clutched the smaller fingers of her daughter, June, whose oversized hoodie clung to her soaked frame. They were two shadows in a storm that didn't seem to care if they vanished. No one was supposed to be out here, except Red Callahan. He gripped the steering wheel of his old white pickup with the intensity of a man who knew how fast life could change. The windshield fogged and cleared rhythmically with each swipe of the wipers, revealing the ghostly mist ahead. Beside him sat a 7-year-old daughter, Ellie, swinging her legs in rhythm against the booster seat, tracing the race of raindrops on the window with her finger. Her quiet humming was the only sound between them, a comforting routine in the aftermath of loss. They were just coming back from piano lessons, a weekly ritual. Not because Ellie was some prodigy, but because Marlene, Red's late wife, had believed in music as medicine. Red hadn't missed a single lesson since she passed. Promises to him weren't just words, they were vows stitched into his soul. As the truck crept down the gravel path near Sycamore Lane, Red's eyes caught something unusual. 2 figures, drenched, one limping under the weight of a duffel bag and a lifetime of weariness. The woman, military fatigue soaked through, lips tight, eyes sharp despite the fatigue, shielded her daughter from the wind with her body. The child's sneakers sloshed through puddles, each step a struggle. Red hit the brakes hard, his truck skidding slightly. "Everything okay, Daddy?" Ellie asked, her voice small. He didn't answer. Couldn't. Something about the sight ahead caught in his chest. A memory, maybe. A moment. Or perhaps it was just the raw humanity of it. The soldier's quiet determination, the child's tired stumble. He rolled down his window. The cold wind slapped against his skin. "You folks all right?" he called out. The woman turned. Her face was strong, not beautiful in a way magazines would capture, but in a way life etched into bone. Steel gray eyes met his, alert, proud, haunted. "We're fine," she replied, but her voice cracked like glass under strain. "Just trying to get to the shelter before it closes." Red looked down at the child. Her cheeks were flushed with cold, her thin arms wrapped tight around her mother's waist. No umbrella, no hope of making it anywhere dry in that storm. "You're not going to make it in this," he said. He hesitated, just for a moment, and then made a decision that would ripple through all their lives. "I'm not a creep," he added. "Got my kid in the car. Just come in and get warm." The woman's body tensed, calculating, wary. Ellie rolled down her own window, poked her head out, and chirped brightly. "It's okay. I have snacks." A faint smile, fragile and fleeting, touched the soldier's lips. "She's persuasive," she murmured. "I've got hot soup at home," Red said gently. "Not much, but it's warm. Dry roof, real food." That did it. She gave a brisk nod, lifted the child into her arms, and climbed into the back seat. "Name's Zara," she said quietly. "This is Juniper. We call her June." "I'm Red. This is Ellie," he said. "You're safe now." The rest of the drive to his cabin passed in thick silence, filled only by the rhythmic drumming of rain on the truck's roof and Ellie's enthusiastic explanation of why goldfish crackers were better than pretzels. Zara said nothing, but Red noticed how her eyes scanned every tree, every signpost, as if plotting an exit, a soldier even in rest. When they pulled into the driveway, Ellie leapt from the truck and bolted toward the porch. Red handed Zara a towel from behind the seat. She stared at it, as if unfamiliar with gestures of kindness. "You didn't have to stop," she whispered. "Yeah, well, Marlene wouldn't have let me keep driving," he replied. Zara blinked. "Your wife. She passed 2 years ago. I'm sorry." Her voice held no pity, only sincerity, the kind that comes from understanding grief firsthand. Inside, the cabin smelled of cedar and lentil soup. It was humble, worn, but warm. Ellie and June disappeared into the living room as if they'd known each other forever. Zara sat stiffly on the kitchen bench, a steaming mug in hand, untouched. Red stirred the soup without looking at her. "Where you coming from?" "Fort Campbell," she said. "Just discharged. Nowhere to go. No family." She hesitated. "Not really. Applied for housing. No word yet." "And June's father?" Zara's jaw clenched. "Never stuck around. It's just us." Red turned to look at her fully. "Well, for tonight, it's 4 of us." Later, with June asleep next to Ellie, both wrapped in blankets, arms entwined like sisters, Zara stood on the porch, staring into the downpour. Her silhouette was rigid, defiant. Red joined her, offering another cup of tea. "The porch light's always on," he said. She looked at it, then him. "That a saying?" "No, it's a promise." She didn't answer, but something in her expression shifted, barely visible, like the first crack of dawn after a sleepless night. The next morning arrived gentle and gold, like an apology whispered on a breeze. The rain had stopped, but its memory lingered in the dew on the grass, the smell of wet pine. Red stood at the sink, sipping coffee, watching the sky clear itself. Behind him, the cabin was quiet, not empty, just reverent, as if something delicate and new was unfurling. Zara stepped into the kitchen. Same cargo pants, same military top, barefoot, but still carrying the posture of a soldier. Red noticed the thin scar above her brow, the tremor in her hand as she reached for the cup he offered. "You sleep okay?" he asked. "Better than I have in weeks." "June, she's still asleep. That never happens." "My Ellie used to be like that after her mom died," Red said softly. "Took her a year to sleep through the night without waking up crying." Zara's gaze fell. "Kids are stronger than we think. But some nights, yeah. Some nights it breaks you," Red finished. Later, the girl sprawled on the rug, drawing animals and giggling like they'd shared a lifetime already. Zara stood near the doorway, arms folded, face softening as she watched June laugh. "She hasn't done that in months," she whispered. "You've been moving a lot." "Too much. Couch to couch. State to state. The Army's great. Until you're not, there's any more." "You can stay," Red said. "It's not much, but there's space. And the girls, well, they've already decided. I don't want to impose." "You're not. Most people wouldn't offer this, especially not to someone with a duffel bag full of debt and no address." Red shrugged. "Most people haven't been where I've been." She didn't ask where. She didn't have to. That afternoon, they fixed the old gutter together. Zara scaled the ladder with ease, hammer in hand like it was second nature. "You do this a lot?" Red asked. "Used to build storm shelters in the desert." She smirked. "This is a breeze." "I like your wit," he grinned. "It's the only thing the Army didn't issue me." Later, the girls chased frogs near the creek, squealing and barefoot. Zara and Red watched them from the porch. "You ever think of leaving this place?" she asked. "Sometimes," he replied, "but Ellie feels safe here, and maybe I'm done starting over." She nodded. "I know that feeling." As twilight settled, Red lit the porch lantern. "You light that every night?" she asked. "Every night since Marlene died." "Why?" He paused. "Used to be for her. Now, maybe for anyone trying to find their way back." She looked away. "I used to believe in things like that." "You stopped?" "I stopped believing anyone was looking for me." He didn't flinch. "Maybe they weren't, but you still found the light." She didn't reply, but her silence shimmered with something like longing. Like maybe she wanted to believe again. That night, as Red tucked Ellie in, she asked, "Is Miss Zara and June gonna stay forever?" "I don't know, sweetheart. That's up to them." "I hope they do. I think we're helping them." Red kissed her forehead. "Maybe they're helping us too." On the porch, Zara stood hooded in the darkness, staring into the distance. Red joined her without a word, and together they looked into the night. The stars blinked weakly above, but the porch light glowed, steady, warm, and patient. A light once lit for a memory, now shared, perhaps, for future. Inside, Zara sat at the kitchen table, paperwork spread before her. Government forms, discharge records, letters from Veterans Affairs filled with apologies and denials. She stared at one envelope, fingers trembling slightly. It didn't say anything new, but for the first time in months, she didn't feel entirely alone in reading it, because outside a light still burned. A step ahead. Zara's jaw locked, her entire body coiled with a tension she'd mastered long before civilian life. She folded the letter in her hands with clinical precision, each crease exact, deliberate, like the military had trained her to do everything with intent. She slipped it beneath a stack of papers, as if burying it could somehow diminish the emotional weight pressing against her chest. That's when she saw him, Rhett, leaning in the doorway. He didn't speak, just stood there, arms crossed, his frame filling the doorway like a sentinel. His eyes, steady and unflinching, carried the kind of quiet understanding that only comes from surviving sorrow. He knew better than to fill the silence with noise. Sometimes, silence was the only way to listen. Zara didn't look at him right away. Instead, her voice broke the air like a whisper across glass. You ever feel like the system just wants you to disappear? All the time, Rhett replied without pause. Especially after Marlene died. It was like I ceased to exist. Except to the bill collectors. They never forget. A half-smile tugged at the corner of her lips. Some things never change. Rhett stepped forward and pulled out the chair across from her. The legs scraped the floor in a slow, familiar way. What's the plan now? Zara exhaled. The breath weighted with exhaustion. Keep calling. Keep applying. There's a transitional housing program, 2 counties over. But it's full. They said, check back in 4 months. She finally looked up, her eyes searching his. And until then, I keep pretending I've got it together. For June's sake. Red didn't flinch. His gaze didn't soften with pity, just steadied with that same quiet resilience. He didn't try to fix her. He just let her truth breathe. You don't have to pretend here, he said gently. Not with me. Zara blinked hard, her throat constricted around something too big for words. Before she could form a reply, the back door flew open. 2 girls came crashing in like sunlight through a dusty window, laughter tumbling ahead of them, grass stains on their knees, and the wild scent of open fields clinging to their skin. Look, Ellie held up a mason jar, triumphant. We caught lightning bugs. June added, cheeks flushed with pride. 3 whole ones. Rhett chuckled, sound low and warm. Make sure you let him go before dark. Those bugs have families too. The girls dashed past, leaving muddy footprints and echoes of joy behind. Zara exhaled. Her eyes trailed them with a mixture of awe and ache. Sometimes I wonder how she keeps smiling, she murmured. She's got you, Rhett said simply. That's how. Zara shook her head, her voice barely audible. I'm not sure that's enough. Rhett looked at her, something firm but kind settling in his tone. It is, but just in case, she's got us now too. That evening, once the girls had fallen asleep in a haphazard fort made of pillows and dreams, Rhett retreated to the garage. The single overhead bulb hummed above him, casting a circle of light over the old workbench. He reached into a drawer and pulled out an envelope, worn and creased from time, but still heavy with memory. It was that letter, the one denying Marlene coverage for a treatment they deemed not medically necessary. By the time the system changed its mind, she was gone. Red didn't keep it out of anger. He kept it as a reminder, proof that the cracks in the system were wide enough to swallow good people whole. He placed a blank sheet in front of him, picked up his pen, and began to write. The next morning, Zara stood in the kitchen blinking at the sticky note on the coffee maker. Red scrawl read, took Ellie to school. Back soon. Coffee strong. A smile ghosted across her lips. Reliable in the small ways. That was Rhett. As June colored at the kitchen table, Zara stepped onto the porch. The morning air was sharp, still kissed by night's chill. Sunlight danced on the dew-soaked railings, and somewhere in the woods, a bird called out to the day. She stared into the trees, and without warning, a memory bloomed. The first time she'd held June after coming home from Afghanistan. Her fingers had still smelled like gunpowder. Her spine ached from the flight. Her soul had been locked behind layers of armor. But when June's tiny hand brushed her cheek, something cracked open, a reminder of what it meant to be human. Now that same child had slept peacefully for 3 nights, laughed without bracing, trusted a new place, a new man, a new version of family. And that scared Zara more than anything she'd seen in combat. Because hope was the most dangerous thing of all when you didn't know if it would last. Rhett returned before noon, groceries in one arm, and something tucked beneath the other, a manila envelope. He placed it on the table, without ceremony. "I sent a letter," he said, "to the mayor's office, to the local VA liaison. Told them what's happening here. Mentioned a little girl who used to cry herself to sleep, but now catches fireflies." Zara blinked. "You didn't have to." "No," Rhett cut in gently, "but someone has to. And I've got paper, a stamp, and a reason." She looked down, her breath catching. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't owe me anything," Rhett said. "But if they do, I'll be ready to say yes." That night, while the girls were tangled together watching cartoons, Zara found herself on the porch again. The lantern beside her glowed like a heartbeat. Rhett joined her, handing her a mug of tea. "You're not just helping," she said quietly. "You're showing me what it feels like to be seen again." He took a breath, then replied, I wasn't trying to show you anything. Just trying to keep the light on. Figured someone might need it." She turned to him. "Well, someone did." The Saturday farmer's market in Blue Hollow smelled like cinnamon, wet earth, and the past. Wooden stalls lined the sidewalks, each one brimming with the simple magic of small-town life. Honey jars, peach jam, fiddle tunes, and homemade pickles. It should have been calming. It wasn't. Zara stood stiff beside Rhett, posture alert, arms folded. Her eyes scanned every direction. She looked like a woman prepared for ambush, not apple pie samples. June and Ellie giggled over pumpkins too big to carry. One was shaped like a duck. "You okay?" Rhett asked softly. "I'm fine," she lied too fast. He didn't push. Just picked up a jar of honey and turned it over in his hands. "You don't have to stay," she muttered. "You could shop without us." "I could," he said, "but I'd rather be here." A man walked by in a camouflage cap. Nodded. She nodded back instinctively, then turned away before the emotion in her throat could rise. And then came the smell, roasted peanuts. It detonated something inside her. Suddenly she was back. Cobble. Dust. The scream of tires. The blistering heat of a roadside market. The blast. Her grip tightened around the paper bag. Her fingers turned white. She stepped closer to Rhett, murmuring, "I'm fine." "You're not." I said I'm. But then her knees buckled, and he caught her elbow just in time. People looked. Not many, but enough. Zara pulled away, burning with shame. "I need a minute." She walked quickly, controlled, not frantic, down a side alley between the bakery and the barber shop. Found a bench under a tree. Saturday. Breathe. She hated this. The way the war still lived in her. In her lungs. In her skin. In the way certain smells could rip her apart. She hated that her daughter saw her flinch. She hated the stranger's eyes. The ones that thought strength looked like silence. She hated that Rhett had seen her like this. Rhett approached slowly. Careful. Gentle. "You're not broken," he said, standing just far enough away. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't say that. It's true. People want to think soldiers come back and just click back into place. But we don't. We carry it. All of it." He sat beside her. Not close. Just near. "After Marlene died, I couldn't sleep in the bed. Too empty. I spent a year on the floor. Ellie thought I was camping. I smiled at church, mowed the lawn, did all the right things. But inside, it was like I was carrying a cinder block on my chest. No one saw it, but I felt it. Every minute." Zara turned to him, her expression softening. For the first time, she saw the ache in his eyes, the sorrow he never named. He wasn't trying to rescue her. He was just showing her his own wounds. "It's been 2 years," she murmured. "Yeah. Do you still miss her?" "Every day. But it's different now. Like a song you used to know. You still hum the tune. It just doesn't hurt the same." Zara looked away. "I don't want to be someone who always needs saving." "You're not," Rhett said firmly. "You're someone who survived. That's not weakness. That's a different kind of strength." June came skipping down the path with Ellie in tow. June wrapped her arms around Zara's neck. "Are you okay, Mama?" Zara held her close. "Yeah, baby. I just needed a minute." Ellie looked at Rhett. "Did she get dizzy like Grandma used to?" He knelt beside her. "No, honey. Sometimes grown-ups remember things really hard, and it makes their heads feel loud." The girls seemed to understand. They returned to the market, hand in hand. Zara stood, dusted herself off. "Thanks for earlier." "You don't have to thank me," Rhett said. "Just keep walking beside me." She studied him. "You sure you want that?" "Yeah," he said. "I really am." That night, Zara pulled out a worn photo from her backpack. Her squad, her ghosts. 3 of them gone. The others scattered like ash on the wind. She hadn't looked at it in months. She placed it beside June's drawing of the cabin, and a crayon note. "You're my favorite grown-up, besides Daddy." The war wasn't gone. The pain hadn't vanished. But maybe, for the first time, she wasn't facing it alone, and that felt like enough. Sunday mornings in Blue Hollow. Sundays at the Callahan cabin had their own rhythm. Slower, softer, wrapped in the scent of pine wood and frying bacon. Red was under the hood of his truck, singing something that might have once been country. His flannel sleeves rolled to the elbow, grease staining his forearms. Zara sat on the porch steps, sipping her second cup of black coffee. No sugar, no cream, just strength in a mug. The girls were nearby, building a fort out of firewood and wild laughter. It had been a week since the market, since the alley, since she cracked open and Rhett didn't flinch. She still didn't know what this was, but she wasn't rushing to define it. Peace, however fragile, was a luxury she hadn't tasted in years. "You planning to stare me into fixing this faster?" Rhett called out. She smirked. "Depends. You planning to fix it, or just hum it into submission?" He grinned. "You'd be surprised what a good chorus can do to a rusty starter." Zara walked over and peeked under the hood. "That's your solenoid relay," she said. "It's loose." Rhett raised a brow. "You know cars." She didn't answer. She didn't have to. She laughed, a sound so rare and unexpected it startled both of them. It was a soft, fleeting sound, but rich with something precious that had long been missing, the echo of joy. By noon, the old truck purred contentedly in the driveway, while the girls, June and Ellie, had moved on from glittering sidewalk chalk to painting rocks, their fingers smudged with color and imagination. Inside, Rhett stood at the stove, humming as he grilled sandwiches with the precision of a man performing a quiet ritual. "Your dad's kind of awesome," June whispered to Ellie as they dipped paintbrushes into mismatched jars. Ellie's face lit up, pride blooming across her cheeks. "He makes the best peanut butter and jelly, too. But don't tell him I told you that." Zara, overhearing from the doorway, smiled to herself. Watching June speak like that, light-hearted, uninhibited, felt like watching a flower bloom in slow motion after years beneath winter frost. There was something tender and raw in the way that joy reemerged, not loud, not flashy, just beautifully alive. In the kitchen, Rhett flipped sandwiches with ease, still humming. The tune drifted toward Zara, familiar and bittersweet. "Is that gentle on my mind?" she asked, walking in with a tray of the girls' painted rocks. He glanced up, surprised. "You know Glenn Campbell?" "My dad used to play him on vinyl every Sunday while making pancakes," she said. "I always liked how he sang about quiet things like they mattered," Rhett replied, placing a sandwich carefully on a plate. Zara leaned against the counter, her voice soft. "Quiet things do matter." Their eyes met, not with drama or heat, but with a mutual recognition that came from two people who had seen enough of the world to cherish stillness when it found them. It was Red who looked away first, grinning as he plated the rest of the sandwiches. Lunch is served. Gourmet chef-style, diagonally sliced, crusts removed, just the way the girls demanded. Zara chuckled. You've been trained well. After lunch, Ellie tugged at Rhett's sleeve, eyes wide with expectation. Tell one of your garage stories, please. It was an old tradition, one he once shared with Marlene and their daughter. Slow Sundays made magical with make-believe and motor oil. Red eased into his worn rocking chair, cleared his throat theatrically, and began. Once upon a time, in a garage far, far away, there was a pickup truck named Bessie who thought she was a race car. His voice danced, full of warmth and whimsy. He wove tales of enchanted wrenches, blue-singing spark plugs, and heroic oil spills. The girls roared with laughter, faces flushed with delight. Even Zara, despite herself, couldn't suppress a smile. And somewhere between a haunted carburetor and a transmission that told ghost stories, she found herself watching Rhett, not guardedly, but with a growing sense of admiration. There was something magical in the way he held space for joy, how grounded and light he was at the same time. Later, while the girls lay tangled in a nap among blankets and glue sticks, Zara joined Rhett on the back porch. The late autumn sun was melting into the horizon behind the pines, casting everything in golden hues. You're good with them, she said, her voice quiet. With Ellie, with both. Rhett shrugged, hands in his pockets. Kids need what grown-ups do. Someone to see them. Really see them. Zara turned to him. You know, I never had a Sunday like this. Not even as a kid. My mom worked 2 jobs. Dad left when I was 5. Most Sundays were just silent. Rhett nodded. Silent can be heavy. She swallowed. Yeah, sometimes it still is. He looked out over the trees. I hope this one felt different. It did, she whispered. It really did. There was no need for more. No performance, no facade. Just 2 people standing side by side, letting something warm and wordless settle into the quiet between them. That night, after the girls had gone to bed and the house fell into its familiar hush, Zara stood by the window in the guest room. The porch light glowed softly in the dark, a sentinel of warmth and quiet welcome. She turned and saw something on the dresser, a note written in crayon. Dear Miss Zara, you fixed Daddy's truck. That means you're part of our team. Love, Ellie and June too. Zara sat slowly, the note trembling in her hand. She had carried her past like a duffel bag for years, packed with survival. But this was something else. This was belonging. And for the first time in a very long time, she didn't want to leave it behind. The call came just after dusk. Zara was folding laundry, the scent of lavender still clinging to warm cotton, when her phone buzzed softly. She picked it up, expecting spam or a missed call from a caseworker. But the voice on the other end rooted her in place. Zara, it's Lieutenant Colin Griggs. You got a minute? She hadn't heard his voice in over 2 years, not since they both left different tarmacs in Kandahar. Colin, I thought you were in Arizona. I was. Got transferred. I'm with Rapid Response now. But this isn't a social call. She knew that tone, clipped, efficient, no room for niceties. We need field instructors for a critical 6-week cycle in Colorado. Vets only. Combat experience preferred. It's trauma integration, recovery readiness. You'd be perfect. Zara's throat tightened. Colin, I've got June. We're not exactly in a place to just relocate. It's not deployment, he assured her. It's transitional. On-base housing. Weekends free. You'd help others like you. In the hallway, she could hear Rhett reading a bedtime story. 2 worlds colliding. 2 lives leading into one another. Just think about it, Colin said gently. You once told me you didn't know how to be a civilian. Maybe this is how you figure it out, by helping others find their way. She promised she'd consider it, but her heart was already at war. She didn't tell Rhett that night. Couldn't. He was barefoot on the porch, sipping tea under a sky full of stars, like they whispered things meant just for him. She stood behind the screen door, unsure how to break something so whole, with words so uncertain. So she said nothing, just stepped outside, leaned beside him, and let the silence hold them. He passed her the second mug without asking, but her mind circled endlessly. Could she leave, even temporarily? What would it mean for June, finally sleeping through the night? For Rhett, who never asked her to stay but looked at her like home didn't feel full without her in it. The next morning, June was curled on the couch with Ellie, watching cartoons. "Mama," she said sleepily, "did you know frogs can freeze and still come back alive in spring?" Zara blinked. "No, I didn't." "They don't die," June whispered. "They just go quiet for a while." Zara sat down beside her, brushing a stray hair from her daughter's cheek. "Is that how you felt last year? Quiet?" June nodded solemnly. "And now, I think I'm thawing." The words settled deep into Zara's chest. This life, this place, had begun to thaw for both of them, and yet another part of her stirred, aching for purpose, for service, not out of obligation, but something deeper. That afternoon, she found Rhett building a raised garden bed. "You know winter's coming, right?" she teased. "I believe in getting a head start," he said, hammering. "Ellie wants to grow carrots big enough to feed a bear." She smiled, then exhaled. "I got a call last night, from someone I served with." He paused, looking up. "They're building a program in Colorado for soldiers transitioning out of combat. They want me to teach. Just 6 weeks. Not a full deployment." He wiped his hands. "What did you tell them?" "That I'd think about it. And now, I want to say yes. Because it matters. Because I know how much it matters. But the other part of me," she met his gaze, "doesn't want to leave this. You, June, all of it." He was quiet. Then he said gently, "Zara, I want to ask you to stay. That's not love. That's fear." Her eyes brimmed. "But I won't pretend it wouldn't matter," he added. "It would. It does." She took a step closer. "Would you wait for me?" "I already have," he whispered. "Not just for you. For the chance to feel something real again. So yeah, I'd wait." She pressed her forehead to his chest, and he wrapped his arms around her like he meant it forever, even if that forever had to begin with goodbye. That night, June lay half asleep, her small hand tucked beneath her cheek. "Do you have to go?" she asked. "For a little while," Zara said, "but I'll come back." "Promise." She kissed her forehead. "Cross my heart." And then, alone, Zara lit the porch lantern. It glowed brighter than ever. A beacon. A vow. A prayer. They left at dawn, before the sun crested the pines, before the goodbye could turn into heartbreak. June clung to Ellie, her glitter-painted backpack bouncing with every step. Rhett watched the truck disappear down the gravel road, his stillness soaked in quiet grief. That night, he sat alone at the table, his hands wrapped around a mug he didn't drink, the house echoing with silence. Ellie patted in, holding a picture, 4 stick figures, one with a long braid. 6 weeks, she whispered. But what if she forgets? "She won't," Rhett said, pulling her into his lap. "She's doing something brave, something important. But she was important here, too." He kissed her head, eyes stinging. Yeah, he thought. She was. In the days that followed, Rhett did his best. He made lunches with extra care, took Ellie on bike rides, checked the oil with her in the truck. But the guest room remained untouched, still smelling faintly of lavender. He'd once believed love only happened once, that what he'd had with Marlene could never return. But now he saw love not as a shape but a light, and different people carried it differently. Zara had brought hers like a torch, bright, intense, hard-earned. And now the porch light glowed like a candle in the window, waiting, still burning, still home. The porch light. But they're listening, and I think that's what matters most. Tell Ellie she's brave, and tell yourself the same. I'll be home before the frost thaws. Zet read the letter once, then again, and again. Each time, the words wrapped tighter around his ribs, like warmth layered under old winter coats, soft and stubborn, refusing to let go. That night, Ellie found him in the garage, dust swirling in the half-light, shadows curled around the edges, where he stood polishing an old guitar that hadn't sung in years. It was Marlene's once, the last time he'd strummed it. Her laughter had still lingered in the house. But something in Zara's letter, maybe it was the silence behind it, maybe just the ache of missing, stirred something inside him, a longing to remember the sound of music again. "Will you play the one Mama used to sing?" Ellie asked, her small frame climbing up onto the workbench like she belonged there, a soft flame against the dark. He hesitated, his fingers stilled on the strings. Then he nodded. The chords came slow, like a language remembered in dreams, half forgotten but rooted in the bones. The road is long, the sky is wide, but hearts remember where love hides. Ellie leaned her head against his shoulder, and for a moment the silence wasn't lonely. It was sacred. It held memory, waiting, something close to prayer. The week that followed moved with the weight of ritual, familiar yet changed, like walking through an old house where the furniture had been rearranged. Rhett started cooking again. Not just the survival food, grilled cheese and scrambled eggs, but real meals, the kind that filled the house with the smell of garlic and rosemary. He swept the porch, repainted the tool shed, and fixed the squeaky door in the guest room, though no one was sleeping there yet. And every night, no matter the weather, rain or clear, wind or still, he turned on the porch light, even when no cars passed, even when no footsteps echoed down the gravel road, even when he wasn't sure it mattered. One night, Ellie asked, her voice soft as dusk, "Do you think she sees it?" Rhett smiled, slow and thoughtful. "Maybe not with her eyes," he said, "but I think she feels it." It was nearly 3 weeks, and when he opened the fridge and saw the last jar of peach jam, the one Zara had picked up at the Sunday market, the one she'd said tasted like quiet mornings and her dad's old vinyl records, he stared at it for a long moment. Then he reached for a spoon. The first taste was too sweet, the second somehow perfect. He walked to the back porch with the jar in his hand and sat beneath the weight of a sky blushing with sunset. The trees moved gently, as if exhaling. He missed her. Not just her voice or her face, but the way she challenged everything. Her certainty, her fire, her unshakable belief that life didn't owe her a damn thing, and yet she gave it everything she had anyway. He missed June, too. Her questions, the way she entered a room like a ripple, quiet, curious, and impossible to ignore. But what surprised him most wasn't their absence. It was that it hadn't broken him. Not exactly. It had stretched him. Waiting, he realized, wasn't a hollow thing. Waiting was love. Later that night, Ellie slipped a crayon drawing onto the porch steps. 2 hearts beneath a glowing lamp. "She'll come back," she whispered. "I just know it." Rhett, looking at the soft light spilling across the planks, nodded. "Yeah," he said. "I know it too." By now, Blue Hollow had shifted. The leaves fell with the hush of old sighs, and the wind threaded through the trees like a whisper that winter wasn't far behind. Inside the cabin, the evenings weren't empty, just still. They felt like held breath. Rhett stood in the kitchen stirring chili, the scent of cumin and tomato clinging to the air like memory. Ellie sprawled in the living room with a book and a blanket half tangled around her feet. It had been 24 days since Zara and June left. Not that Rhett was counting. Still, he moved through the house with quiet reverence, like a man walking through memory. Slowly, gently, knowing where everything used to be. The guest room door stayed ajar. The porch light stayed on. And Zara's letter, creased, worn, read too many times, lived in his wallet, close to his chest. That evening, Ellie asked the kind of question that sneaks past defenses. "Do you think she'll come back and still want us?" Rhett looked up from his bowl. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Ellie hesitated, "maybe she'll like her new job more. Maybe she'll meet someone else. Maybe she'll forget." He set his spoon down, walked over, sat beside her, the couch creaking softly beneath the weight of truth. "Love doesn't forget," he said. "It stretches. It waits. It gets tested. But if it's real, it always finds its way back." Ellie nodded slowly, resting her head against him. "I hope it's real." Me too, kiddo. Later, Red stepped onto the porch with a mug steaming in his hand, the woods standing like sentinels beyond the gravel road. The wind had picked up, rustling the trees like an old hymn, wordless and weighty. He thought about calling her, just to hear her voice. But he didn't. She needed space to become herself again, to learn what she could carry without breaking. And maybe, just maybe, she needed to know she was free to return, not because he asked, but because she wanted to. He turned to go inside. And then, knock, knock. He froze. 2 soft knocks. Not frantic, not uncertain, just there. Real, present. The kind of knock that didn't ask permission, but didn't demand either. He opened the door, and there they were. Zara stood in the porch light, damp from the night, her jeans clinging to her legs, her old army field jacket zipped halfway against the cold. Her hair was in a braid. Her face was tired, but her eyes, God, her eyes were steady. Beside her stood June, one hand gripping the strap of a small backpack, the other clutching a paper flower. No one spoke. No one needed to. Red stepped aside. Zara walked in, and June ran straight into Ellie's arms, the room bursting with squeals and laughter and words too fast to catch. Inside, Zara and Red stood just inches apart, the space between them humming. "You came back," he said. "The porch light. But they're listening, and I think that's what matters most. Tell Ellie she's brave, and tell yourself the same. I'll be home before the frost thaws." Zed read the letter once, then again, and again. Each time, the words wrapped tighter around his ribs, like warmth layered under old winter coats, soft and stubborn, refusing to let go. That night, Ellie found him in the garage, dust swirling in the half-light, shadows curled around the edges, where he stood polishing an old guitar that hadn't sung in years. It was Marlene's once, the last time he'd strummed it. Her laughter had still lingered in the house. But something in Zara's letter, maybe it was the silence behind it, maybe just the ache of missing, stirred something inside him, a longing to remember the sound of music again. "Will you play the one Mama used to sing?" Ellie asked, her small frame climbing up onto the workbench like she belonged there, a soft flame against the dark. He hesitated, his fingers stilled on the strings. Then he nodded. The chords came slow, like a language remembered in dreams, half forgotten but rooted in the bones. The road is long, the sky is wide, but hearts remember where love hides. Ellie leaned her head against his shoulder, and for a moment the silence wasn't lonely. It was sacred. It held memory, waiting, something close to prayer. The week that followed moved with the weight of ritual, familiar yet changed, like walking through an old house where the furniture had been rearranged. Red started cooking again. Not just the survival food, grilled cheese and scrambled eggs, but real meals, the kind that filled the house with the smell of garlic and rosemary. He swept the porch, repainted the tool shed, and fixed the squeaky door in the guest room, though no one was sleeping there yet. And every night, no matter the weather, rain or clear, wind or still, he turned on the porch light, even when no cars passed, even when no footsteps echoed down the gravel road, even when he wasn't sure it mattered. One night, Ellie asked, her voice soft as dusk, "Do you think she sees it?" Red smiled, slow and thoughtful. "Maybe not with her eyes," he said, "but I think she feels it." It was nearly 3 weeks, and when he opened the fridge and saw the last jar of peach jam, the one Zara had picked up at the Sunday market, the one she'd said tasted like quiet mornings and her dad's old vinyl records, he stared at it for a long moment. Then he reached for a spoon. The first taste was too sweet, the second somehow perfect. He walked to the back porch with the jar in his hand and sat beneath the weight of a sky blushing with sunset. The trees moved gently, as if exhaling. He missed her. Not just her voice or her face, but the way she challenged everything. Her certainty, her fire, her unshakable belief that life didn't owe her a damn thing, and yet she gave it everything she had anyway. He missed June, too. Her questions. The way she entered a room like a ripple, quiet, curious, and impossible to ignore. But what surprised him most wasn't their absence. It was that it hadn't broken him. Not exactly. It had stretched him. Waiting, he realized, wasn't a hollow thing. Waiting was love. Later that night, Ellie slipped a crayon drawing onto the porch steps. 2 hearts beneath a glowing lamp. "She'll come back," she whispered. "I just know it." Rhett, looking at the soft light spilling across the planks, nodded. "Yeah," he said. "I know it too." By now, Blue Hollow had shifted. The leaves fell with the hush of old sighs, and the wind threaded through the trees, like a whisper that winter wasn't far behind. Inside the cabin, the evenings weren't empty, just still. They felt like held breath. Rhett stood in the kitchen stirring chili, the scent of cumin and tomato clinging to the air like memory. Ellie sprawled in the living room with a book and a blanket half tangled around her feet. It had been 24 days since Zara and June left. Not that Rhett was counting. Still, he moved through the house with quiet reverence, like a man walking through memory. Slowly, gently, knowing where everything used to be. The guest room door stayed ajar. The porch light stayed on. And Zara's letter, creased, worn, read too many times, lived in his wallet, close to his chest. That evening, Ellie asked the kind of question that sneaks past defenses. "Do you think she'll come back and still want us?" Rhett looked up from his bowl. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Ellie hesitated, "maybe she'll like her new job more. Maybe she'll meet someone else. Maybe she'll forget." He set a spoon down, walked over, sat beside her, the couch creaking softly beneath the weight of truth. "Love doesn't forget," he said. "It stretches. It waits. It gets tested. But if it's real, it always finds its way back." Ellie nodded slowly, resting her head against him. "I hope it's real." "Me too, kiddo." Later, Rhett stepped onto the porch with a mug steaming in his hand, the woods standing like sentinels beyond the gravel road. The wind had picked up, rustling the trees like an old hymn, wordless and weighty. He thought about calling her, just to hear her voice. But he didn't. She needed space to become herself again, to learn what she could carry without breaking. And maybe, just maybe, she needed to know she was free to return, not because he asked, but because she wanted to. He turned to go inside. And then, knock, knock. He froze. 2 soft knocks. Not frantic, not uncertain, just there. Real, present. The kind of knock that didn't ask permission, but didn't demand either. He opened the door, and there they were. Zara stood in the porch light, damp from the night, her jeans clinging to her legs, her old army field jacket zipped halfway against the cold. Her hair was in a braid. Her face was tired, but her eyes, God, her eyes were steady. Beside her stood June, one hand gripping the strap of a small backpack, the other clutching a paper flower. No one spoke. No one needed to. Rhett stepped aside. Zara walked in, and June ran straight into Ellie's arms, the room bursting with squeals and laughter and words too fast to catch. Inside, Zara and Rhett stood just inches apart, the space between them humming. "You came back," he said. She turned toward him, her face partly swallowed by the porch light's gentle halo. "Rhett," she said, voice low but clear, "I used to believe I was only worth something when I was sacrificing, when I was throwing myself into danger to save others. Like, if I wasn't bleeding or burning for someone, I wasn't worth much at all." Her breath caught. "But now, I'm beginning to think I don't need to prove anything anymore. Not to them. Not even to myself." Rhett didn't hesitate. He nodded, eye steady on hers. "You don't," he said. "Not here. Not with us." Zara looked up at the porch light, still glowing, unwavering. "You always left that on," she murmured. "Even when you were away." "Why?" A faint smile curved across his lips. "Because you hadn't said goodbye." She leaned into him then, slowly, like her bones remembered how to rest. Her head found the curve of his shoulder, and his arm slipped around her as if it had always belonged there. "I'm not going anywhere," she whispered. "I know." And so they sat there together, wrapped in silence, not of absence, but of arrival. No alarms, no saving, no frantic proving, just being, just peace. That night, the first frost kissed the world quietly, like an exhale, Tender, soft, undeniable. By morning, the grass shimmered in silver threads under a crystal sun. Trees stood bare, unapologetic. Above them, the sky stretched clear and endless. In the heart of Blue Hollow, the Callahan cabin had grown warm in a way fire couldn't account for. The heat came from something deeper, something growing. Zara had stopped keeping her duffel bag zipped. June no longer asked if they'd be leaving soon. Red had begun setting 4 plates at dinner, without a second thought. It wasn't official, no signatures, no rings, but something sacred had bloomed quietly between them. Not just shared space, but shared hearts. Still, words lingered unsaid. Until that Sunday. The day began with pancakes. Rhett, in his favorite time-worn flannel, hummed as he moved through the kitchen, the scent of cinnamon dancing around him. Ellie cracked eggs with over-the-top flair, and June, ever serious, appointed herself the official syrup inspector. Zara leaned against the doorframe, coffee in hand, a crooked smile tugging at her lips. "I don't think this kitchen's ever been this loud," she teased. "That's because it finally has a real crew," Red shot back, flipping a pancake with flair. "Crew that demands chocolate chip hazard pay," Ellie added with a grin. Zara laughed, really laughed, and for a heartbeat, she caught a glimpse of herself that she hadn't seen in years. Grounded, easy-loved. Later that afternoon, Red led them outside to the backyard, a small box tucked beneath his arm. "I've been thinking," he began as they gathered near the raised garden beds, now blanketed for winter. "We've built a lot this year. Forts, routines, a chili recipe that nearly killed me." He smiled. "But we haven't built something together." He set the box down, lifting the lid. Inside lay 4 wooden stakes, thick rope, and a handful of hand-painted signs. Zara raised an eyebrow. "A fence," he chuckled. "Not quite." He held one up. It read, "Team Porch Light Est." Ellie squealed. "Is a fort flag?" "Better," Rhett replied. "It's a backyard promise post. Each of us gets to write down one promise to the family, big or small, tie it here, and keep it." Zara stared at him, heart tightening. It was so Rhett, no speeches, no flash, just quiet meaning disguised as simplicity. "All right," she said softly. "I'm in." They each took a square of waterproof paper and a marker. Ellie went first. "I promise to help June when she's scared at night, even if I'm sleepy." Then June. "I promise not to hide the cookies unless I share them." Rhett cleared his throat. "I promise to always keep the porch light on, not just the bulb, but the one in my heart for all of you." Zara held her blank square a long time. Then, with hands slightly trembling, she wrote, "I promise not to run when love gets quiet. I'll stay, even when it's hard." One by one, they tied their promises to the post, watching them dance in the soft wind. Legal? No. Binding? Absolutely. That night, after dinner, the girls begged for one last story by the fire. Rhett, born for moments like these, spun a whimsical tale about a family of owls who built a nest on a porch light and guarded the forest from above. June curled into Zara's side. Ellie draped herself across Rhett's lap. The fire popped like gentle applause. Later, after the girls had been tucked into the room they now shared, Zara found Rhett on the porch staring into the stars. She stepped beside him, arms wrapped around herself. "Do you ever think about what comes next?" "Every day," he said, "and I think we're already in it." She glanced sideways at him. "You ever miss when life felt certain?" He turned to her, eyes open, steady. "No, because it never was. I just didn't know it back then." She gave a small, knowing smile. "I used to think I'd never be someone's soft place to land, that I'd always be leaned on, never toward." He reached for her hand. "You've been mine." Her breath caught. And then, for the first time since they met, he kissed her. Slow, steady, without apology, not rushed or hungry, but full of everything they'd built through laughter and late-night tea and every moment neither dared name. When they pulled apart, she rested her forehead to his. "Are you asking me to stay?" "No," he whispered. "I'm asking if you already have." She smiled, tears burning but not falling. "Yeah, Rhett, I have. Later, wrapped in one of his old sweatshirts. She stood on the porch again. Red brought her a second mug of tea, steam curling between them. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Sure. What made you come back that night when you knocked?" She thought for a long moment. Something June said. About frogs. He blinked. Frogs. She said they freeze in winter and thaw in spring. That even after being still for so long, they come back to life. And I realized I'd been frozen too. But this place, this family, had started to thaw me. I didn't want to refreeze. He took her hand. "Then we'll keep the light on." And they did. By spring, the garden Red had planted without much hope was now overflowing with green. Carrots and cherry tomatoes pushed through the soil. 2 sunflowers, lovingly planted by Ellie and June, grew wild and crooked and alive. Laughter flowed from the open windows. Shoes piled by the door like declarations of belonging. Inside, cinnamon and pine filled the air. Not the scent of a house, but of home. Zara stood barefoot on the porch, coffee in hand, watching the girls draw hearts in chalk. Red sat on the steps with a guitar across his knees, strumming something soft. She didn't know the tune, but she knew the feeling, peace. For the first time in forever, Zara wasn't bracing for things to fall apart. The noise inside her, the old panic, the need to run, had quieted. She hadn't just stayed. She had landed. That weekend, they hosted a small picnic, neighbors, a friend from Rhett's past, 2 women from the school board, even Colin Griggs, who brought June a stuffed turtle and shook Rhett's hand with the solemn respect of men who rarely speak their truth aloud. "You did good," Colin told Zara before leaving. "You found something most of us spend our lives searching for." She looked toward Rhett and the girls. "Yeah, I did." As twilight fell, the girls toasted marshmallows over a fire pit. Rhett and Zara sat close beneath a shared blanket. "Do you ever think about the life you left behind?" she asked quietly. "Sometimes," Rhett said, poking the fire, "but it feels like a story that belonged to someone else." She nodded. "Same. I look at June now, and she's light again. That used to feel impossible." Rhett touched her hand. "You gave her that." Zara smiled. "No, we did." Above the mantel, a new photograph had joined the old. The 4 of them on the porch steps. Ellie and June grinning, Rhett laughing, Zara with one hand on his knee, the other on June's shoulder. The porch light glowing behind them. A small handwritten label beneath it read, "Team Porch Light." Later that fall, Rhett found Zara sitting at the table, a manila envelope at her side and a postcard in hand. He raised a brow. "What's that?" She smiled. "It's from a sergeant I trained in Colorado. She's starting a trauma support unit near Dallas. Said I helped her find her footing." He nodded, unsurprised. She asked if I'd come help start the next cycle. Zara paused. "I told her I'd think about it, but only if it doesn't mean leaving again." Rhett stepped forward. "Then we go together. That's the only way I move now." Zara took his hand. "Then I'll follow wherever the light leads." That night, they stood outside as the girls chased fireflies, giggling with glass jars in hand. Zara turned to him. "Do you remember when you first turned on that porch light?" He nodded. "The night I buried Marlene. The house was hollow. I couldn't sleep. I walked outside and flipped the switch. Didn't even know why. Maybe I was hoping someone might see it." She leaned into him. "I did." Still the porch light glowed, not because someone was lost or leaving, but because it had become a beacon of return, of forgiveness, of everything they'd quietly built. "Do you ever wonder what might have happened if you hadn't turned it on?" Red asked. Zara looked into the soft darkness. "No," she whispered, "because we're here now. And sometimes, the miracle isn't what you missed. It's what you found." She stepped forward, flicked the porch light off, just for a breath, and then on again, just because she could. And the light, as always, answered. "If you've stayed with us till the end, thank you. From the bottom of our hearts. We'd love to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching from today? Share a piece of your story in the comments. And if this tale stirred something inside you, if it reminded you of second chances, of healing, of the light that can still shine after darkness, consider subscribing. We tell stories like this to warm the soul and celebrate what it means to be human. Until next time, take gentle care of yourself and keep the light on. Someone might be looking for it.